The Honourable Ngāi Mahira.
Tēnā tātou katoa tuatahi, tēnei te mihi atu ki a koe te ariki, e tumu, hei whakakanohi mai a rātou mai i whakatū te pau ki pūkawa, kia whaia tātou i te mana motu haki o te iwi Māori, nō reira kia koutou no te ao o whanganui tēnei te mihi atu. Ka whakahoki mai ki a koutou o Ngāi te Rangi, ngā Pōtiki. Nei te tino tāpiri atu aku mihi mai o haki era I waihote ngui a koutou nei aroaro, mō tēnei pānuitanga o tā koutou pire, nō reira tēnā koutou katoa. Mr. Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to be able to support the first reading of the Ngāi Te Rangi e Ngā Pōtiki Claim Settlement Bill and the intent of the legislation. I want to acknowledge both Ngāi Te Rangi and Ngā Pōtiki for their long-standing efforts to get to this particular time and also commend their aspirations for the future. Can I acknowledge those negotiators who have already been mentioned, but make special acknowledgement of my former colleague, Mr. Ririnui, who was an Associate Minister of Treaty Settlements, and to Matua Hauata Pāma, who kindly hosted me when I was doing a little bit of research of my own, and I will come to that those salient lessons as I go through my speech. I want to also acknowledge Matua Waka Pāma and Matu Dixon. Matu, I had some personal interaction with during his time in Waikato and over a number of years. Can I say, Minister, that everything that you said about Matu was absolutely true, and he made a huge contribution to the Waikato. He is sadly and sorely missed in our area because he was a community man. He understood the necessity of trying to hold on and uphold the values that Māori have within an ever-changing world, and I think he was absolutely consistent right through to his untimely death. Also of Waka, made a huge contribution to the hāhiratanga. He was a kind soul and very wise, and people who sought his advice would always get two sides of the coin, I think, when they sought his advice. He gave a very, yes, I think, a very wise counsel. And so I guess I came to this whole process of the Tauranga Moana treaty settlements knowing those commonalities of our experience. And actually, Raupatu was all about iwi standing up for their own lands, fighting to retain what was theirs in their own area. But let's put Tauranga Moana into some context, because today Tauranga Moana has one of the most successful ports other than Auckland. In the future, it will continue to be one of the most successful economic areas or engine rooms for the country. So when we think about the opportunities going forward, it is no wonder that there has been some significant effort to try and retain and some gains going forward around local government representation. Mr. Ririnui himself, under some vociferous and nasty debate, introduced the first provision for Māori seats at regional council level. And once you understand kind of what the extent of the impact of that level of decision making at central and local government can have, I think the opportunities in this particular settlement can only be built on. I want to reiterate the comments of the Minister. The Ngāi Te Rangi and Ngā Pōtiki Claim Settlement Bill really brings together what has already been debated at first reading in this House for Ngāti Ranginui and Ngāti Pukenga. However, those things outstanding, the Tauranga Moana framework, everything to do with what's happening in the marine space of Tauranga Moana is absolutely significant. We've not mentioned the RENA, but it did have a big impact on their area. And the response may have been not as well accommodated for as iwi would have wanted, but should it ever happen again, we hope it doesn't, The response should be much better informed with the direct contribution of iwi. Again, the other issue about the Tauranga Moana framework, which in time, Minister, we may well get to support if it requires legislation, is the ongoing ability of iwi within Tauranga Moana to have a say on the way in which the harbour develops, because if, for example, any extension to the port or any dredging within that part of the marine space of Tauranga Moana is required, iwi should have a say. The turnover of Tauranga Port just last year was 79 million. So you calculate how long the port's been there and what the lost opportunity is for the people of Tauranga, and then see what the ongoing obligation of any government would be to try and include the people of Tauranga Moana within the development of their particular part of the world, because housing is unaffordable for people from Tauranga. Tangata whenua from Tauranga are being outpriced in their own region. That cannot be fair. The settlement does provide an avenue for opportunities, and I was heartened by my visit to Ngāi Pōtiki and looking at what they're doing to enter into the space of provision of housing for their own people and the social housing space through partnerships. And they're starting in ways that they obviously have a plan around and are doing good work in. But the sad reality is that as Tauranga becomes more economically prosperous, our question has to be, will the settlement enable them to continue to live and thrive in their own region? And that is going to be the ongoing test of the settlement. I made mention earlier that I went to go and visit Hauata with the specific intent. I am the representative for Hauraki Waikato, and I'm standing to make some very certain statements based on some research that I undertook, because I had questions knowing that Hauraki had made claims into Ngāi Rangi. So my questions were very simple, and from, I guess, my own upbringing, if you understand your own history, you kind of use that as a platform to be whakahihi enough to go and ask a question. Narungi te kore mōhio, narungi te kuaretanga. He pātai no iho, kia ata kimihia ki te huarahi pai māku, so that I could stand with a level of conviction about things. But I did have concerns about the extent, Minister, and you know this, of Hauraki's interest right into the CBD of Tauranga. So my questions were simple. Was there a tātai pounamu? Was there a significant marriage that occurred? Beyond Ngāti Pūkenga, that history stands by itself, but was there a significant marriage that happened from the people of Hauraki with the people of Ngāi Rangi, which was enduring to this day? Was there an urupa? Was there a significant ancestor that came from Hauraki and had enduring interests like ahi kā within the area? I asked my kuare questions, I'll say that in front of Hauata, and he kindly responded. But I have come to know this, having also gone back to Hauraki to ask questions. Minister, if the process doesn't lend itself too kindly to a Māori way of sorting out these things. Now, if kaumātua have been able to be encouraged to sit down and sort this out, I think the extent of Hauraki's interests would have been where they rightly should be, which is back in their own rohe. And I say this as a member of Hauraki Waikato, at the risk of not being elected at the next election, because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And we see so many times, we come to this house through the treaty settlement process, being put in some very difficult situations where it's hard enough within their whakapapa connections arguing with one another, let alone somebody coming from somewhere else and making all sorts of claims. But I do it because it's the right thing to do. I do it because I know that Tauranga Moana have had a very long history of trying to seek redress, and it is a smidgen. But if the real opportunity of the collective of Tauranga Moana redress around the impact of raupatu within their rohe is measured, then it's the way in which going forward, any government sitting on that side of the House would seek to continue to uphold not only its obligations due to the settlement, but its ongoing obligations to support leveraging through local government and other decision-making about the economic prosperity of the Tauranga Moana region, because it can only flourish with all the iwi of Tauranga Moana. Nō reira, he paku mihi, he paku whakaro hei tāpiri atu ki enei kōrero. Tēnā koutou katoa.